Meet Ryan Williams. Ryan likes music and games. Ryan is 34 and on the extreme end of the autism spectrum. He doesn't speak, he can't see. Before living at a group home in upstate New York, Ryan's home was a developmental center, another name for a mental institution. His parents thought the accommodations were good for him.
There were no limitations. At Brook, the people, it was a campus, it was a big family.
He moved into his current group home about 11 years ago. The state of New York now wants other developmentally disabled New Yorkers to make the same transition that Ryan did, out of state institutions into group homes. Last year, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced that 4 state institutions will close by 2017. The Office for People with Developmental Disabilities is the agency responsible for the developmental centers. Quote, OPWDD has for many years been actively engaged in downsizing and closing institutional capacity in order to assist as many as possible to live productive lives that are fully integrated in their communities. Back in 1976, that institutional capacity was at 27,000. Now, it's just a few hundred people housed in these 4 institutions. All but a few are headed for group homes in the outside world.
I've always been convinced that that's the way that people should live. They should live in communities.
Deinstitutionalization, as it's called, was sparked when reporter Geraldo Rivera snuck a camera into Willowbrook State School in Staten Island in 1972. Exposing horrid, inhumane conditions. As a result, Willowbrook and other state institutions were eventually shut. Later, the institutions became known as developmental centers. The 1999 Federal Olmstead Act banned confining people in institutions entirely. John Cosentino has lived at Brooklyn Developmental Center for nearly 40 years.
Good job.
The institution is slated to close at the end of this year, meaning that he will have to move. His parents are worried.
When you do ask the question about group homes, it does fare well for a lot of the consumers, that do go there. But Johnny's case is different.
The 51-year-old is severely autistic. He is prone to self-harm. Going out into the community will be difficult. At the Brooklyn Developmental Center, he has care 24/7 and an ample safety net to protect him.
John's adaptive equipment, his posy mitts that protect him, the cushion mitts, so he doesn't injure his eye, the hockey helmet.
Caretaker Dave Jenkins runs the Civil Service Union in Binghamton. He says that shutting down mental institutions may be good for the bottom line, but bad for the developmentally disabled.
These are not numbers, these are people. And they have families, and it matters. It may look good on a sheet, on a spreadsheet, but in reality it may not.
Not everyone, however, has benefited from being in a mental institution. Jonathan Carey lived at O.D. Heck Developmental Center in Schenectady. He was 13 when his caretaker tried to make him be quiet, and soon Jonathan stopped breathing.
And I miss taking him to the horses and just stables and taking him riding and just seeing the joy on his face. And I miss him in every way imaginable.
His father now lobbies to restrict overtime so caretakers don't burn out. He also wants federal funding to be redirected from institutions to families so their loved ones can stay at home. He says even group homes are not the answer.
How do you compare putting somebody in a group home where they're maybe charging $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 or more, depending on the medical needs even, somebody, versus hiring, you could have 1 or 2 hired people full-time for a fraction of the cost.
Not everyone will move into a community. Those spots will be kept for those under court order to stay or who need a temporary residence. The Bernard M. Finneson Center behind me is slated to close come December 2016. Many of the residents are wards of the state and their futures are unclear. One thing that is for certain, life as they understand it will never be the same. In Queens, Chelsea Katz, Stony Brook University.